listening to the Money Monopolizers podcast, helping you take control of your financial destiny. It's about time that we invest more in our financial literacy and work towards building generational wealth. If you think you're ready to do the same, then you've come to the right place. Alex, Marlon, y'all ready? Let's get this bread.
What's good, everybody? It's Alex when you're here. We are back with episode 140 of the Money Monopolizers podcast. And I'm here with my co-host, Marlon Walls. Marlon, how you doing today, bro?
Doing excellent, man, to be honest. I can't complain too much at all. Actually, I had a thing yesterday. So I guess when we were recording this yesterday, I actually had helped one of the Turo hosts that are in our current parking garage move. So so I guess the person who's actually in there is a manager. So I actually connected with them back last year, and I learned a lot based on talking with her and talking about her actual boss. I've just been getting a lot of information from her. But they were changing management. And so the new manager, actually know him. I only just met him one time at the Power Host Summit. And he is probably the longest standing Turo host in the country.
Really?
81,000 trips.
That's the most?
Yes. 81,000 trips that he's had.
How many cars does he have?
Over 400. So
wow.
That's her new manager. That's her new boss, essentially. And they were changing that management over. So I saw that as a perfect opportunity, to at least get into their network. So he wasn't actually there, but his direct person that he orchestrates, his manager, was there for me to talk to. So I answered a lot of questions just to him as far as how does that guy run his operation?
Yeah.
And so we've pretty much spent the whole day moving 50 cars that were just at the Houston location.
Really?
Yeah, because his main location is out in Los Angeles, and he has 400 cars there, just in that one spot.
Wow.
And so I was able to tap into a lot of information. I did learn a little bit, but that's one thing I'm always doing regardless, is just trying to find who can I learn something new from. And it's not going to be the conventional mentors that we saw on social media. It's going to be more so just fit, the little small opportunities like that. And just having informal conversations. So that was fun, to be honest. I got a lot of information. They took us out to lunch and everything after. So yep, it was pretty cool overall.
Why were you doing that?
Why'd I do what exactly?
Helping them move their cars.
She had asked for help because it was going. If we hadn't helped, because we as in me, my dad, and our 3 employees, we all helped them out moving those 50 cars. Because otherwise, they would have spent probably 2 or 3 days moving them, because it's only going to be her manager and her at first. They probably would have went to go get some people, but I wanted to do it because, like I said, it was a
networking.
Yes, it's a networking value add opportunity. So I'm very big on that, finding ways to add value to somebody that you want to learn something from.
Right.
And so that was a perfect way to get into their network, show that I'm adding value, but
did they also ask, or did you offer?
No, she had asked me, but I said I just pretty much capitalized on it because I didn't know they were going to move that soon. So she had mentioned that they were moving. I'm like, oh yeah, we can help you out with that.
So y'all just drove the car, moved all the cars up.
Yeah, it's like a 5-10 minute drive from the actual location. So we spent 4 or 5 hours doing it.
Yeah, I bet.
Yeah, so it took long with all of us, 7 people moving. Yeah. So it took days. It was just her and her manager, or her manager, and she actually had asked just me to do it at first. And I was like, I'm gonna bring the team for this, because we ironically we didn't have any cars going out because all of our cars are already gone.
Yeah.
And so that was a good thing about it. But so yeah, I was like, that's
getting paid anyway.
So they actually ended up paying us too. They paid us, they took us out to eat, and I learned information.
Oh,
so
yeah,
I'm
so win-win-win.
Yeah, so that was great. But just little things like that. It's a lot of what I do in my day-to-day activity now is finding different ways to learn new information. So that's been a lot of what my weeks have looked like now.
Yeah, I think that goes back to what we talked about last week about being a entrepreneur, what it really means to be an entrepreneur, that makeup and what that entails, and a lot of that goes back to that kind of stuff. So that's dope.
How everything been for you?
It's good. I can't complain at all. I think we're in July, mid-July now, or
starting Q2.
Yeah, beginning of July. So it's interesting. It'll be interesting to see
Q3 starting half to Q3.
Yeah, we ended Q2, so it'll be interesting to see how the rest of the year unfolds. But again, I'm optimistic. I'm excited to see where things kind of go from here. But overall, though, I can't really complain. I think the biggest thing that again, like I said last week, that I'm focused on is continuing to learn new skills and continuing to just put myself in a position to where whenever anything happens, if anything does happen in the economy, in the market, that I'll be well prepared, and I'll be able to weather the storm and be better off than a lot of people that will come out, because I think a lot of people are gonna kind of struggle. A lot of entrepreneurs, a lot of business, a lot of regular people, a lot of people will struggle if we get into a recession. And if you don't have those skills, if you haven't been preparing yourself to be able to weather something like that, then it's gonna be a rough winter for some people this year. So I don't know. We'll see. I'm no prophet, but I do my own research, which I encourage everyone to do as well. And kind of do your own research and come with your own opinion. Don't take anything I say just because I have a platform, as face value. I mean, I've done research, and you can take that for what it is. But at the end of the day, do your own research, and I'm not responsible for any losses you may incur or any, I
mean, if anything, you've helped them out a little bit to be more prepared. Yeah. So I would look at it as like you just be like a messenger as bring in potential information. So it doesn't hurt to be more prepared rather than ill prepared. Right. So, which
at the end of the day, I would hope that's the reason you're tuning into the podcast, is because you want to hear what information we've learned, because at the end of the day, that's all this podcast is. Mm-hmm. We learn information on our own just because we need it anyway.
Facts.
And then we bring it here to share what we've learned. That's what it's been the last 3.5 years.
That's why it's called the journey for me. Like, you are seeing in real time what things we've learned, things that, like, I just told the story about how I found a value add opportunity. When I executed it and talked about it here, so y'all can learn, hopefully, that y'all weren't just listening to the story, but actually saying, oh, this is how you can add value to somebody.
Yeah.
That's an example, like a real-time example. One of the biggest things I'm a proponent of right now is not necessarily listening to what somebody is saying, but watching what they're doing and why they're doing it.
So if someone wants to add value to you, what can they do? If they say they want to, take you out for a fee.
I'm not going to, we can go all the way into that. But my recommendation is not necessarily seeking my answer. My recommendation, if you want to find a way to add value, is watching what am I doing, and potentially what am I lacking in. Yeah. It's not necessarily a one, because it's not one way to add value to somebody. It's a thing. There's an infinite amount of ways to add value to them, but you have to figure out where are they lacking at, what are they not doing as that they could be doing better, that you really have a good that you may be proficient in. Like, let's say graphic design. You may look at my graphics that I put out and be like, bro, or lack thereof. See, like, you're not putting out a lot of graphics when you do your advertising. I've actually created a couple graphics I've created graphics for other people in the past, and I actually made you one just using one of your pictures that you have. Here's a graphic for you to use for your next promotion, if you and I can modify it for whatever you want it to be for. It's huge value add. Just one of many examples, though.
Yeah, there you go.
Somebody got something for free right there. Hopefully somebody takes advantage of it.
Sauce.
Right. So, but it's always trying to find where is that person lacking, because nobody in this world is perfect. Yeah. We have so many holes in our businesses, in our personal lives, and we still take a platform to talk about the things that we are struggling with, also the things we're doing good with. Yeah. But find those holes with somebody else and try to find a way to fill in that void.
And everybody has like a lack. Everybody does. Like, it doesn't matter who you are. There's a lack, and there's a way you can add value to anyone. Granted, depending on the person, the level of value you might have to add might be not realistic for you at that point in time.
Yep.
Like I said, everybody, whether you are a billionaire, a multi-billionaire, whatever, a millionaire, you're broke, poor, whatever, everyone has level of value. But if you want to add value to someone that is beyond you, you got to understand that what you consider valuable isn't what they consider valuable. So
facts.
That's the biggest thing to keep in mind.
That's why I say you got to look for where do they need help at, not necessarily what are you good at, because I'm not necessarily good at moving cars. Like, just think about yesterday, that's not my specialty, but when they said that they're getting ready to move, that's a value add opportunity. And I said that they paid us, but I didn't ask for pay. Yeah. I care way more about what I was going to learn from being in that conversation as opposed to what they were going to pay me.
Right.
And so I'm not even seeking payment. I'm seeking the knowledge. And so if I'm going to ask for something, I'm going to first give something. And then you just, it's just like the cup runneth over type thing, where you continue to get value poured back into you because what you did for somebody else without asking for anything in return.
Yeah, at the end of the day, the people that make the most money are the people that add the most value.
Correct.
To other people. Mm-hmm. You look at Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk. They run companies that add value to billions or hundreds or millions of people. So it's you get compensated based on the amount of value you can add, and that's why as your business grows, you make more money because you're adding more value to more people. It's just a straight up correlation. Value is equal to money, any way you put it. So there's y'all's little quick tip.
That was like legit. Like that was free sauce for a lot of people.
Yeah,
hopefully somebody takes advantage of it.
A lot of sauce. Most people won't do anything with it, but
I hope somebody do. Make sure y'all.
5 people will.
Let me know if y'all do. Like, let me know like an example. Send me an Instagram DM or something. DM Monopolizers, DM me. I want to see somebody that took action on that.
Yeah, I would like someone to prove me wrong. But so what we'll do is really get into our episode for this week. I think we got a good topic. I think this is something we talked about last year, a while ago, last March, but I think it was good to revisit it just to see if maybe our answers will have changed. But what we really want to get into is, the top financial mistakes you can make in your 20s and 30s. So I think, we'll do 5 of them. I think we have 5 of them that we'll get into. I don't really know what Marlon has.
How many you got?
I think I got 2.
Okay, cool.
You got 3?
Yeah, I had 3.
Yeah. So these are just like the top that we think are the most. I mean, we could come up with more, obviously, but these are probably, some of the primary ones that I've seen, and I think that, cripple a lot of people. And if you could avoid these things, you'll be a lot better off. These things primarily. So I guess I'll just start off with my number 1, and then you'll kind of get into yours, and then we'll alternate back and forth. Does that sound good?
I'm about to say I can start it off just because if I got more than you, we can end off alternating back and forth.
Yeah, go ahead then.
So just I guess the recap of like where this came about. So a lot of people, especially like just graduating college, just like graduating high school, graduating college, y'all may be in a position where you're trying to figure out what's the next step as far as financially, and how can you start growing in that direction. Also for people who are older, you may have made these mistakes before, but now you're trying to correct that. So a lot of people may need this type of financial advice. This is not financial advice officially. This is these may need to implement these financial steps in order to like really start seeing growth in that area. So the number one thing that I thought about in regards to the top 5 financial mistakes that people make is that they never create a plan to get started. Like let's say a plan for their money. So I think
to get started with what?
To get started on their, let's say if we're on like a financial freedom journey, or if they're trying to.
So is this for financial freedom or just for?
I think it should be for financial freedom.
Just want to clarify.
Yes, actually this is for financial freedom. So on the 5 financial mistakes on your financial freedom journey, is that you don't necessarily have a plan for how you're going to attack that financial freedom journey. You just kind of like, you had no plan at all.
Vibes.
Yeah, you're just going off of vibes. Without that plan in place, a lot of missteps happen. So I think about like in regards to when you make money and you have no plan for it, eventually it's going to like disappear anyway, because you're going to find something to spend it on, whether it's clothes, whether it's shoes, or really like putting your money in the wrong places. Let's say you try to invest, you want to invest your money, but you don't necessarily know where to invest it to, so you just can put it into a 401k. Like, so it's, you have to think about like, what is the plan to get to financial freedom by a certain time, and how can you backtrack that to figure out what is the next best step. Like for us, it was house hacking decrease our expenses in order to start going into help us increase our or get to financial freedom faster by having less expenses and overhead in order to get there. And so
your next step could be even beyond that, like deeper or sooner, or it might not be that.
It might not be that one.
Yeah.
But it may be like the step before that, like
improving your credit.
Correct. So you have to figure out like, what is that first step that for you, like what is your roadmap that you need to identify for yourself in order to get there. Yeah. Because without that roadmap, you're kind of just going to be wandering and trying and just hoping that you end up somewhere at some point. And that I think will you will exhaust a lot of money unnecessarily when you don't have a plan in place.
Mm-hmm. No, that's real. I think you covered a lot of that. And the only thing I would really add to that is that a lot of people, what happens is you come across financial freedom just, I don't know how a lot of people come across it, but it wasn't necessarily an intentional thing, right? It was something where you just saw some, especially now with social media. I think it's almost like a wave now, right? And it's like a fad. I don't know. It depends who you follow, of course, and what they're putting on your timeline for the most part. But a lot of people come across it, I think, primarily through like social media and like, YouTube or whatever, TikTok. Like you come across people that are saying, hey, I'm retired. Hey, I have this business. Hey, I make this money from home, or hey, I'm making money while traveling, whatever the case may be. Like a lot of people found this podcast because they saw that, I was making money traveling.
Facts.
And so you kind of come across this just out of curiosity. So it was never something that was like an intentional thing for you. So because of that, you don't approach it intentionally.
Mm-hmm.
And so what like the reason we started this journey, it was intentional. Like we started it with intent because it was like, because there was a situation we didn't like. So it's like working a job for 40 years is a situation that makes you want something else, versus me just coming across it. You have a different approach. So now, because I have a different approach where I have a reason for doing it, I'm approaching it now with a plan, right? And so it's much easier to put together a plan. So the reason I say that is because you just got to be aware of like, how did you just have some awareness about how you came across this kind of thing, so you can know if you're approaching it like, you know, just off of just vibes, or if you did have a structured plan. And whenever we say have a structured plan, there's a bunch of other episodes that you can go listen to. We talked about creating financial freedom plan, levels to financial freedom, all that kind of stuff. And so we're not going to get into that here, but just understand that if you just see someone that has another business, whatever, they have a course, you go get their course and they expect to get financial freedom off that. It can happen, but very unlikely that you'll get it, because what happens is, even if that course doesn't work, whatever the case may be, if that doesn't work, now you quit and you go back to your job, whatever, and it's like, dang, okay, I tried it, it doesn't work.
Right.
You don't understand the overarching theme of like, you know, financial freedom entrepreneurship is that, hey, sometimes stuff won't work. I have to try the next thing. So because you approached it just kind of off of vibes, you gotta just vibes result. So if you want a real result, you gotta really give it a real structured approach, which is putting a plan together for financial freedom, like you said, backtracking from where you want your life to look like, and then ultimately coming back to your present day and figuring out what your next most important step is. At the end of the day, that's always what this journey is. It's what your next important step is. There should never be a point where you don't know what your next step is.
Yep. And I think just what you were talking about with like watching the mentors and stuff, like listening to the courses, keep in mind, like I said earlier, don't just listen to what somebody is saying, because all you're gonna do is just follow those instructions without actually understanding the foundation of why they are saying to do that current step. Because like for us, if you're listening to something that we're saying, it's because we have a financial freedom plan in place. Yeah. And this is just one step of that plan. And so if you're just listening to one thing that we say and just implement that step, you're not gonna understand the whole overarching plan. So you need to figure out why somebody's saying what they're saying.
Right.
For that reason.
That's real. So that's number one. I'll get into my next one. My next one would be the number one mistake that I see a lot of people make. This is a financial mistake, but it definitely hinders your financial freedom journey. And I've always been an advocate of this, but that is buying, number one, a car as soon as, you know, you make more money on debt, buying a car on debt, number one. And number two is buying your dream house, you know, as the first house, right? So essentially, you know, you're buying any liability, you're buying brand new liabilities funded with debt. And so those to me are two things. Obviously, you know, this is something that some people, if you already done it, then you've done it. Like there's nothing you could do about it. But if you haven't done it yet, then please be aware that this is something that you should consider before you do this. Because what happens is most people, you know, a lot of people, they, you know, graduate college, whatever. They don't even have to be in college. You get a pay raise at your job. You feel like, hey, I can get a nicer car now, you know, whatever the case may be. I can afford, you know, the bank will approve me now for this much instead of, you know, the bank give me a bigger mortgage now, so I can buy a bigger house. And so just having that understanding and awareness that, hey, just because I'm making more, just because I'm in a better situation, doesn't mean that I should upgrade my liabilities, right? We tell the story all the time. We've been driving that same, you know, I know you recently upgraded your vehicle because you had to.
I'm about to say it wasn't an intentional upgrade.
Yeah. You had to. Your car, you know, you drove it as long as you could. But, you know, for the most part, we was driving the same car since high school. It's not necessarily because we had to, because we could have upgraded the cars a long time ago whenever we, you know, graduated college. But you just got to understand, it's not, at that point in time, the incurred debt or whatever, that's not worth it. And that at that point in that stage of the journey, there's stages in the journey where, yeah, it's fine. Like, you know, where once your assets are making money, totally fine to go ahead and get that car. But if you're saying I'm going to get this car, get this house and pay for it with my earned income, you've just now gotten deeper enslaved to your job. You've just got trapped further and further into that job for a longer period of time. Understand that delayed gratification is always going to be the thing that pays the best dividends. There's nothing, delayed gratification at the end of the day is going to be your best friend. And I know it sucks in that moment, whatever, especially if you're young. Like I can't tell you, of course I want to get a new car or whatever.
Facts.
Like, and it's something I could get. Of course I could get a new car. But until I can get the car I really want, which is not a car I can quite yet afford, then I'm not going to get that car. I'm not going to get a new car just for the sake of getting a new car. I'm not going to get the new house just for the sake of getting a new house. Because that's what I say, bro. It's like, to me, it's like you go from this level, you go all the way to the next level. It's not, for me, it's not a slow incremental increase. Right. It can be for you if that's what you prefer, totally fine, as long as you're doing it the right way, of course. But for me, it's like I'd rather just, get cooked for a good period of time with the stuff that's like, the lower tier stuff, and that's I'm paying, that I'm not having to finance or pay for in every single month with earned income, especially from a job. Then I would much rather continue to delay gratification as long as my car is working, as long as my house is fine. I would much rather continue to delay gratification until I get to that point where now, my assets, my business, whatever I'm doing, whatever I focused on to achieve financial freedom can afford me the type of vehicle or the type of house that I truly want. I can tell you, I can promise you, when I get the house that I truly want, it's going to be, it's going to be something that's much more gratifying than just getting whatever, a Toyota Camry, right? Like
you're not doing incremental growth. It's like you go straight for the big time.
Yeah, and no shade on the Camrys. The Camrys is nice, but for me, it's like, it's a certain kind of level that I'm trying to get to next. So that the Camry just don't do it for me right now. I rather stick to what I got until I'm able to kind of get to that level, and that's just a personal choice. But the biggest thing overall is understanding that these liabilities, they just hinder you, they slow you down, they keep you tight. If you're paying for any liability with your job, the longer that just keeps you in your job longer, because now you need that income from your job to be able to pay for that car, to be able to pay for that mortgage. And it's unfortunate for a lot of older folks that didn't get this message prior to at an earlier age, because now you've so many things that you have so many liabilities, you have so many things that have just entrapped you into your job. You can leave if you wanted to, at least. But the thing about doing this early is that it gives you about not getting into all this debt and consumer debt, like cars and mortgages that aren't paid for by tenants, is it doesn't give you any options. You are forced to continue to work if you want to be able to pay for these things. But at least if you don't have these things, now you're not forced to work. And the good thing is, once you get level 1 financial freedom, you can quit your job. You're going to get level 1 financial freedom a lot quicker than you would if you had all these liabilities. And it's all about speed in this thing. It's like,
yep, that's what I was going to say too.
The key is all about how quickly can you get to level 1 financial freedom, because level 1 allows you to just focus all your time to getting to level 2, and devoting your time, because now you don't have to work. Your bills are covered. Your bills are all covered by your passive income, whatever that got you level 1. Now you can focus all your time on growing these things, your assets, your business, whatever that's going to help you get to level 2. Now, once you're at level 2, I promise you're going to get that car. I promise you're going to get the house. Just hold on, maybe 5 more years. I know it sucks, but just hold on, maybe 5 more years. That alone, to me, will make a world of difference for a lot of people. A lot of people won't get level 1 financial freedom for a very long time because they have cars, they have a mortgage, they have all these things that they can't afford to stop paying. Mm-hmm. Like you're unless you literally sold those things, you can't leave your job. You cannot leave. And that's unfortunate, but that's the reality. So for those that are in their 20s, 30s, and just starting out, whatever, on this financial freedom journey, don't be so quick to get into that debt. I promise it's a better flex not having that debt. And in 5 years, watch how you flex on people then in 5 years versus trying to flex now with the Camry. I promise
you. Not with the Camry, you gonna flex.
Hey man, the Camrys is nice, like I said, but it don't quite do it for me. So
no, that's a fact. And I think I could summarize that saying like not delaying gratification when it comes to assets versus liabilities. Yeah. Like pretty much people buy the liabilities first. Like I remember Rich Dad Poor Dad, he would say poor people buy liabilities first. Yeah. Rich people buy assets first. Then they let the assets pay for the liabilities. Right. And so I just like buying your dream house. Like that is based on the textbook definition of an asset versus a liability. Asset is anything that's putting money in your pocket. Liabilities take the money out of your pocket. Right. The buying that dream house is taking money out of your pocket because you have nothing to pay for it. It's not paying for itself.
And it's totally fine to have liabilities, but you got to understand what it's paying for it. If you are trading in your time For a liability, you are hustling backwards.
Yep.
If your assets are paying for your liabilities, who cares? Get as many as you want.
That's a fact.
Make sure your assets and income that you don't have to trade in your time and slave for is paying for your liabilities.
Yep, and that's one thing I don't think we mentioned enough in the very beginning of this podcast is that we want the liabilities, we want the stuff that we want the luxuries of life, but we want something else to pay for it. That's the essence of it all. Is that you want the assets that's gonna pay for your lifestyle, the liabilities. It's level 2, level 3 financial freedom,
and that's what delayed gratification is waiting until those assets are in place. That's all delayed gratification is.
Yep,
it's waiting for the assets.
Correct.
In this context, is waiting for the assets to be able to pay for them.
Yep. And I think my second, or I guess our number 3 point actually ties directly into both what I said at the beginning and just what you said, just in a different asset, like putting it in a different perspective, is suffering from income creep. Yeah. And so I think this ties a lot into like not having a goal for your money.
What is income creep?
Income creep. So, man, I had a good example from one of my friends. So she told me that she had just graduated from undergrad. And she started looking at her. Well, she started trying to figure out why was she not making a lot of money.
Yeah,
because she's got a good job making like $89,000 a year, like pretty good salary, engineering salary at that. And she's like, I'm not really seeing a lot of money. I'm like, well, you need to look at your financial statements. Like, look at your bank statements. I mean, and let's start categorizing them. And she saw that she was spending a lot of discretionary money, like making sure her nails got done every single week, making sure that she did her hair like every few days, like. And I mean, a lot of stuff is cool to have, but a lot of discretionary spending. I was like, so 1 year ago, were you doing all the same stuff? And she's like, no. I said, well, what you suffered from was income creep. Income creep is basically when you get more income, you start spending more money right away. Right. Because now your lifestyle has matched your income, and that's what most people do. That's why I answered 1 year ago, were you doing that? Because her income wasn't where it's at today. And so I said, you need to operate as if you were still as a because I'm gonna say to backtrack. If your goal is early financial freedom, all right, let's say that first. If your goal is early financial freedom, then you need to act like as if you were still in college. Like, as far as your spending habits, you weren't pampering yourself every single week because you're delaying gratification. Because at this point, you're trying to get to where you can pamper yourself every single day. So that's your best life you're trying to get to. That's level 2 financial freedom. Let's use the money that we're bringing in right now to go towards our financial freedom plan that we just built out in step number 1. That's where the money needs to be going primarily. Still take care of yourself. I'm not saying don't take care of yourself, but that's not where you shouldn't be spending multiple thousands of dollars on that. It should be going towards getting out of your current situation at your 9 to 5 in order to achieve financial freedom. That's where the bulk of your money needs to be going. And that's why I said it also ties into your point. If you start buying the liabilities like the cars and the dream houses right now, you're still not financially free. Now you have to go work to pay for those liabilities you just bought. Right. So it all ties in. It's like you need to make sure you keep your expenses low as your income increases to expedite your journey to getting to financial freedom.
Yeah, that's real. And I think that alone, because what happens is you have to understand where you're trying to really get to. Because when you understand that, then this becomes easy. But when you don't understand where you're trying to go, then it's very hard because then it becomes an emotional decision to like not spend money now. But when you understand that, hey, I'm trying to get to level 1 and then level 2 ultimately of financial freedom, then I know that I'm doing this for a deeper purpose. I know that I'm not spending this extra money, even though I have it. I know I'm doing it for a bigger reason than what it is now. Like you said, I could pamper myself every week now, but in the future I could do it every day, right? So it's like understanding that, okay, cool, I'll chill out now, but in future you'll be able to do that. And I think that alone, it comes from, like you said, having that plan, but also understanding that like this money, we're not just saving this money, you're using it to invest back into your businesses, into these assets. That's what this money should be going to, so that you can get to that level 1 financial freedom, right? But a lot of people, I think that income creep, before even understanding the investing and stuff, a lot of people just don't even know where their money is going. So it's like, dang, how did I spend all this much money? If you just understand the concept of income creep and have the awareness of that this is actually what's happening, then this alone helps. That alone is worth, taking action on this, just even for the sake of that, not even looking at using the money to invest or anything like that. But once you have that awareness, now you can use that money to invest into these assets and things like that. So I like that. And so with that, I'll get into my next one, which will be number 4. And you get into your last one and we'll wrap it up. But I think my second one is what happens that I've noticed a lot of people do is that they listen to the wrong people, right? And you get the wrong information put into you. Therefore, you end up taking the wrong actions. Because at the end of the day, you have to really understand, again, goes back to your first point of where you're trying to get to, right? So when you understand where you're trying to get to, you know whether what the information you're taking in on social media, on podcasts, on YouTube videos and music or whatever, any content you consume is aligned with where you want to go, right? And so one example of this that I really like to use is, understanding this Dave Ramsey versus, Robert Kiyosaki mentality, right? There's completely 2 different mindsets in sense of financial well-being, right? Both are aimed to improve financial well-being, right? Both are aimed to help you get into a better financial situation. Both of these individuals, Dave Ramsey and Robert Kiyosaki. Now, y'all know how I feel about Dave Ramsey. I don't feel that way about Dave Ramsey if you don't know, I don't really rock with Dave Ramsey like that in the sense of the advice he gets. Why? Because it's not aligned with where I want to go. His advice is not aligned with me achieving financial freedom. Telling people to pay off all your debt, which is great. Like, understand this. There's times and places to use these individuals, right? So there's a place where if you start with a lot of debt, if you start with a lot of consumer debt, if you've already bought the car and the house and all that stuff that I was saying not to buy in my first thing, then Dave Ramsey is a good place to start for you, right? Because to me, you're at a negative place Dave Ramsey helps you get to 0.
Get to even, yep.
Dave Ramsey helps you get to level 0. And then beyond that, it's now up to you to find new mentors that are going to help you get to the next level. Dave Ramsey not helping you get to the next level. Dave Ramsey is not going to help you get to financial freedom because he's not giving you information that's going to allow you to get financial freedom. When has Dave Ramsey ever even mentioned financial freedom or early retirement? Dave Ramsey, I promise you, has not mentioned it. And if he has, he probably said it was a scam or something. Don't listen to that or whatever the case may be, because he's going to tell you pay off all your debt, which is, again, it's totally fine. He's going to tell you don't buy a house until all your debt is paid. All these kinds of things. He's going to tell you not to get any debt, not to get any rental properties that you can't pay for in cash. He's going to tell you all these different things that are against to achieving financial freedom and early retirement at an early age. But if you listen to other people, Grant Cardone, Robert Kiyosaki, Money Monopolizers, whoever the case may be, that information is going to get you a different result. There's people that will listen to Dave Ramsey their whole life, and you'll live a great average life, a fantastically average life, an above average life, if you want to call it that. But that's the best that you're going to get. And if that's what you want, totally fine. Nothing wrong with that. But just understand that is where you will get. Understand where these people are leading you. Understand that you're being led to, if we can use the biblical reference of Canaan and the promised land. You're not being led there by Dave Ramsey. If we want to call financial freedom the promised land, you're not being led to Canaan. You're being led to, I'm not going to say Egypt. You're going back, right? No, you're not being led to the promised land. I don't know where you're going, but you ain't going to financial freedom. So just understand that the people, the information, the people you follow, the people that you're taking in, understand if what they're telling you is leading you to what your ultimate goal was. Like, I know for me, I literally stopped listening to Dave Ramsey because I was like, okay, that is poisoning my mind, it's tainting my mind to look at debt as good if I want to use it to leverage into, assets and things that will pay me and allow me to make passive income or cash flow that can help me replace my job. Dave Ramsey's not for that. But if I listen to Robert Kiyosaki, Grant Cardone, these kind of guys that are saying to do, and I'm not even saying they're the right people for you. I'm just telling you, understand what these people are saying is aligned with what you want. Even if you might have found this podcast, listening to it, and you're like, I really like my job, whatever. Well, a lot of stuff we might say might not be aligned with what you want. So understand that if the person is not aligned with what you want, if they're not really necessarily talking about things that are going to help you get there, then understand, and don't, just because they have a platform doesn't mean they're the right person for you. Everybody, a lot of people have a platform, a lot of people have influence, but it might not be the right influence for you. Just understand your situation and where you want to get to.
I think that is so critical, because understand that every single person that has a platform also has a target audience that they're talking to. So for us, we're not talking to people who love their job. Like, understand, like, if you're saying you love your job, you shouldn't listen to us. Reason being is because we're not going to tell you stuff for people who love their job. We're going to tell you stuff. We're going to tell you stuff for people who want a different lifestyle, for people who want financial freedom. That's who we're talking to. So our message is, this entire episode is financial mistakes for people who want early financial freedom. It's not for people who want to work for 9 to 5 for 40 years. So the advice, the things that we're telling you is not going to be in line with your goals if your goals are not aligned with who we're talking to. And so, to really identify, like, who is what mentor can you find? Actually, that ties into my third point. Is you talking about, like, which one to pick? I'll take it to a fundamental level of choosing having a mentor in general. You need to, like, one of the biggest financial mistakes that people make is that they don't invest into mentorship. They don't invest into getting into different rooms. They don't invest into, like, having a group of people around them on their financial freedom journey. This was critical for me. We were talking earlier, back when I was doing all my different, I tried to do like 9 or 10 different businesses at one time. One thing that I was doing was actually stock options, and I was trading, and I kept losing money. And my dumb self back then never thought to say, I don't know this already by myself. Let me find somebody who does know this. So what ended up happening? I kept losing money. Like, my money kept going down. Eventually, I finally figured out how to actually trade just decently, barely anything at all. But how much better could I have been had, instead of me just jumping in, trying to figure out everything out on my own, I go find somebody who knows how to do this already and get the proper guidance and like actually start learning with the proper strategies in place. How much faster can my money start increasing by starting off with the right information, rather than spending months and lots of money that's just pretty much thrown away of learning lessons by yourself. Yeah. So that was like my biggest, one of my biggest takeaways from that experience is, like, invest in the mentorship early, because if you don't know how to do something, you can either learn from your own experiences and time, or you can pass that time up and actually get your results a lot faster by finding somebody who's already done it before. And that's like one of my biggest things in regards to financially. People see spending money on a mentor or a coach or some type of program as a bad financial decision. That's actually one of the best ones you can make, because in reality, you need information. You don't know how to do something, so you need to learn how to do it. You can learn a lot faster, and it'll probably be a lot less expensive when you spend money with somebody else who knows how to do it, versus the losses you have to experience over the course of the next months or years. Imagine how much money you lost, and how much time you've lost, and how much money you could have been gaining during that time. Yeah. All that plays a factor.
That's real. I love it. And I think at the end of the day, you're either going to spend money or you're going to spend time, right? But you're going to spend one of them. If you decide, hey, I don't want to actually get cooked and lose all my money and lose all my, time getting cooked for the next,
and you lost your money from getting when you were doing the cooking.
And you actually lost both. It's better to say, let me just invest money straight up, right off rip, to skip the line. It's like a path it's like a cheat code, right?
It's like expediting your learning curve.
Exactly. That's what I was trying to say. Yeah. Like, let me just expedite my learning curve and get to the front of the line, because you got to understand what you're paying for. You're paying for these other person's mistakes. They already made mistakes so that you don't necessarily have to. Not to say you won't, but you won't make the same mistakes they made, and you probably will make a lot less, because at least you will have a better understanding of it, because you've learned it from someone that has good experience in it. And that is, that is priceless. That alone is priceless. Like, because you will lose a lot more money and time trying to figure stuff out on your own. It's just a lot. This is the only thing I would recommend going into debt for early on. Like, if I was going to say to, if you was going to spend money and go into debt on something, don't go into debt on a car. I would rather you go into debt into some education that's going to help you get to where you want. Now, I still wouldn't necessarily say to do that, but it would be much more, practical, or even, that's more tolerable than you doing it for a car, that's worth nothing after a few years. But this education, even if this is something that's going to get you to financial freedom and ultimately get you to that place you want, how much, what price can you really put on that? And that's really the question that you should ask yourself. So I love it. So that's our top 5. That was 5, right?
Yep, that was all 5 of them.
Yeah. So that was our top 5 mistakes that you should avoid on your journey to financial freedom, that I think a lot of people, especially those that are younger in your 20s and your 30s, can really take. Anybody, this is applicable to anybody. It's really applicable to anybody. All of it.
Yeah.
But if you're starting on a journey, then really
opportune time.
Yes, bro. This is like straight up, and thankfully we didn't necessarily make any of these mistakes, like, you know, in the point where, like, eventually, you know, we kind of figured it out.
Right.
But it wasn't something where it's like, you know, we're still like kind of.
Yeah. Thankfully, we had to pay to learn these lessons. It's just like you can learn from the lessons of others, or you can just like learn from your own experiences. It's much faster if you just like take the free information that we're given on these episodes and not just saying it just to say it. Like I said, somebody send me a DM when y'all have actually taken action on what we said. I would love to see it.
Me too. So
I'm not just talking to these cameras. I'm actually talking to people.
That's what it feels like sometimes. But yeah, man, that's really all I got though. So I guess we could wrap it up.
Yeah, we're solid.
Yeah, that is it for this episode of the Money Monopolizers podcast. New episodes will be released every Thursday and will be available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube. Just search Money Monopolizers wherever you listen to podcasts. We hope you enjoyed this episode, and if you did, we'd appreciate if you rated us 5 stars and left us a review on Apple Podcasts. You can also find out more information about us on Twitter at The Monopolizers or IG at Money Monopolizers. We post informative content on there that'll keep you engaged, so be sure to check that out and share those posts. But until then, we out of here.
Is that information? You said.
You've been listening to the Money Monopolizers podcast, helping you take control of your financial destiny. To learn more about how you can be in control of your money, visit moneymonopolizers.com. We'll catch you next time when Alex and Marlon share more personal finance and wealth creation tips with you. Now it's time to take